On today's DNVR Broncos podcast, we're breaking down why did the Broncos have so many people at Colorado's Pro Day this past week. Plus, we're talking to our guy, Brian Baldinger, and then diving into Tyler Warren. Does it make sense for the Broncos to make a trade up to get him? All of that starting now. On today's DNVR Broncos podcast, where we're breaking down something that Ryan knows very well. A little Colorado football here on the DNVR Broncos podcast. We are live from the Toyota Lounge, driven by your local Front Range Toyota stores. Ryan Koenigsberg to my left, Henry Chisholm to my right. We got Dion and you here behind the camera. Zach Stevens rocking and rolling with you today. Fellas, we got a busy show. So Ryan, how pumped are you to be talking about Broncos and CU in one show?
It's a beautiful thing. Collision of my worlds.
Yep, and you dressed properly for it today.
It's just normal. I didn't think about that at all.
Yeah. It is a great day, though. We have the Avs tonight, and we have Zach Veen's debut, and we have the Masters in like 2 days. Just an incredible sports time, other than Nuggets.
Things are going well.
Yeah, and how about the game last night? Oh, my gosh, I feel heartbroken for that Houston player.
They choked so badly. It's not just him.
No, yeah, but I mean that was one of the most disappointing endings.
For sure.
You at least want to see a shot get up.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's like perfect time to just foul bait. It's like he was too ethical of a basketball player. Because the dude was in the air, like just jump into him and make the refs make a call.
He did a good job jumping to the side though.
Yeah,
the Florida player.
You just fall into it. That's what Shea Gilgeous-Alexander is going to win an MVP because of that.
He is.
Yep. So let's dive in to Colorado football. Last Friday, CU had their pro day where, of course, there were many stars there, and a lot of the football world was there as well. But what caught my eye was how many Broncos were there and how many high-level Broncos were there. Sean Payton was there. Todd Davis was there. George Payton was there. You had many scouts. You had many other coaches that were there, including Vance Joseph was also there. I mean, pretty much the entire Broncos coaching staff and scouting department said, you know what, let's not do our day at Dove Valley today. Let's go up to CU and be there. Why?
Well, I think first and foremost, the Broncos have always had representation at Buffs Pro Days.
Yep.
So it's not like this was a completely out of the ordinary thing. I think with the amount of people who are there, and I think Sean Payton being there specifically is a little more notable. I couldn't tell you if he was there last year because I wasn't there. It was during the Pac-12 tournament.
That's always tough.
Yes. But to me, there's a little part of them that wanted to see what's up with Travis Hunter. I mean, everyone wants that. In fact, I ran into George Payton when CU had an open practice in Denver last fall, and he kind of walked by me as he was walking in, and I struck up a conversation with him, and he's like, is Travis not practicing? I heard he's not practicing. I was like, yeah, he's not practicing. So like they wanted to get eyes on Travis all the way back then. So I think that's part of it. And then the other part of it is there's a lot of good talent for the later rounds. I think that was performing at the CU Pro Day. I am of the staunch belief that the Broncos need more wide receivers. There's 3 draftable wide receivers working out at that pro day. So I think it's a combination of all those things that build up to them, having a real reason to drive an hour, I guess, all the way from Dove Valley to get eyes.
Really quick, though, I don't want to discount how many people were there and how big of a presence they had. And like you said, like the Broncos do always have a presence at CU's Pro Day. They also, John Elway went to a couple of CU Pro Days. They always have a presence at CSU's Pro Day as well. But Sean Payton, George
CSU
Payton.
has a Pro Day?
Stop it. All of those guys weren't at CSU's Pro Day this year. And you talk about draftable wide receivers. Torrey Horton might be the most draftable wide receiver in the state of Colorado for this draft right now.
Other than Travis Hunter.
Okay, sure, fair.
Yeah.
But I don't just want to brush off like, oh, well, they're always at these. This was this was unusual for how big of a presence they had. I don't think we've seen this sort of presence since Sean Payton's been here, where everyone's been up there. One other thing I want to throw into: Broncos during the offseason have Fridays off. The coaching staff. So it was. I think there was a mix of everything you said, Ryan. I think the biggest takeaway is the 3 draftable wide receivers, specifically in the later half of the draft, because I do think the Broncos will draft a receiver specifically in the back half of the draft. So these 3 guys are perfect and make a lot of sense, especially why George would be there. But then I also think maybe you had a few extra eyes up there just because, like, well, it's kind of a day off. Let's go see Travis Hunter. And that's what I would assume is the reason Sean was up there. He gets to hang out, talk with Dion. He gets to talk with Shedeur, and he gets to see a once-in-a-generation type of player in Travis Hunter, but no intention of drafting him. Just like, I get to see this guy with my own eyes.
Well, I think the reason that they sent more people than usual is because there's more people than usual worth drafting.
Yeah.
In the past 3 years, there's been one person drafted from CU, and it's my guy Will Sherman, was a 6th-round pick in 2021. And so it's like, why would you send a whole crowd up there when these guys aren't necessarily like draft? Right now, the Buffaloes, like you said, like there's 4 receivers who probably should get drafted if you count Travis as a receiver.
Oh, yeah.
And that's just the receivers. And you go through the rest of them, like this will be the biggest group of Buffaloes maybe ever to come out in the draft. Like, I'm looking back, like there were like 4 in 2006.
94.
Oh, there were a bunch in 2003. Okay, yeah. Maybe back in the 90s there were.
Yeah.
Well, let's just say most in 20 years, and that's a pretty good reason to drive an hour to go see them all.
Definitely. And I think the 3 guys that really jump out to me from a Broncos perspective, because I don't believe the Broncos are going to trade 3 first-round picks for Travis Hunter. They have no interest in Shedeur, as they shouldn't, because they have Bo Nix. But I think it's the 3 wide receivers outside of Travis that stand out. It's Will Shepard, it's LaJohntay Wester, and it's
Jimmy Horn Jr.?
Horn. Yes, Jimmy Horn. Am I missing anyone in terms of like who you think the Broncos would really have eyes on?
No, not necessarily. I mean, Chidozie Nwankwo is, to me, a very, very underrated defensive line prospect. And it's because he's like maybe 5'10".
Wow.
But with that being said, it's kind of an advantage for him. And we've seen this happen. Like Jason Kelsey was just doing a podcast and he was asked like who the hardest player to go against, and I think he said Poona Ford, who's like very short.
Yeah.
And he was just like, that was my thing. I'm short, so I get the low. I win the center of gravity battle against these guys when I go up against guys that I can't. And Block Bully, as they call him, is like one of the stoutest people I've ever seen in my life.
Short and stout?
Yes. Like his thighs are insane. So to me, I think he should be a drafted player.
So are we talking nose tackle, defensive tackle, more defensive end?
Nose and defensive tackle.
Okay.
He mostly played in there for the Buffs, or entirely played in there for the Buffs, and he completely changed their run defense last year. His job was obviously to eat up blocks in the middle and get into the backfield, and he did it at an incredibly high rate. So I would be excited if the Broncos got him in the later rounds as well.
Well, and also, Ryan, I mean, maybe one of the reasons why he's being overlooked right now is this is an extremely deep defensive line class, which makes some people think like maybe the Broncos will use a first-round pick on a defensive line because it's that good of a class, or you wait until later in the draft because it's such a good defensive line draft that you can get a guy in the 6th who any other year would be worth a 3rd-round pick or something like that. So that could play into the Broncos' hands by a lot of good guys, including him, falling later in the draft.
Yeah, and then one guy that I have to mention because he's my guy is Cam Stillman-Craig. He didn't necessarily perform the best at the pro day. He's dealing with a little injury. He's not a guy that you're going to draft off of his 40 time or his vertical or anything like that. You're drafting him off the tape, and the tape going all the way back to Jackson State and through Colorado is really, really good. And, from the first time I ever watched him at Jackson State, I was just like, I don't know who that is, but he's a dog. And that has never changed. So to me, he's like a guy that you would take a chance on, whether it's in the late rounds or as an undrafted free agent. and, you know, have like a Philip Lindsay effect where it's just like he's a great leader. He does everything right. And, you know, it seems whenever we give him an opportunity, he makes the most of it.
Maybe some PJ Locke vibes.
Yes.
Yeah.
In what way?
I mean, just size, skill set. Like not necessarily having like the crazy athleticism, but late round or probably undrafted guy who you could bring in and play special teams and hope long term he competes for a job.
I like that.
Yeah. And I mean, there's other guys out there for sure. LaJohntay Bentley, I thought kind of made some noise at linebacker. Former, I think high 4-star recruit, went to Clemson, was kind of recruited over, didn't really get a chance there, came to Colorado and played well. He was more of a thumper for sure in college, but I think he's been kind of shedding weight, trying to work on, like he was working out, doing some of the DB drills to kind of show his fluidity and coverage. So there's another name.
That is always tough. It was like those tweener guys. Like I remember like Davion Taylor back in the day, who's just like a freak, winds up being like a 3rd-round pick out of Colorado because, you know, 4.4 speed. That's just what happens for linebackers. But you play that like hybrid position, finding a spot's tricky.
And then I'll just say this: Shiloh Sanders is going to make a football team.
Oh boy.
Is it going to be the one that Shadur's on?
Could be. Very well could be. But
I was being serious.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if that's just a meme in the outside world or if like you would believe that too.
yeah, I mean, the thing is, he just is going to be a coach's best friend.
How so?
Just does everything right. You know, goes above and beyond in the meetings. First guy to practice, last guy out. Like all of that stuff.
That shocks me
I know.
from not knowing
I know.
like the details, because it seems like it would be the total opposite.
And that's the sad thing about the Sanders family, is how many kind of negative things are out there that just aren't true.
Yeah. I mean, there's some of the head hunting stuff, and there's like the Senior Bowl stuff. Like there's Shrine Game with the one-on-ones. Like there are reasons to think things aren't great there.
I'm just telling you, he's going to make a team.
Undrafted?
I don't know.
Potentially drafted though. Yeah. Okay. That'll be interesting.
Just mark my words.
I want to dive into some of the receivers though, because I do think personally that's where the Broncos are really looking in terms of the CU talent is those 3 receivers, where they could go, which one's the best fit for the Broncos. But we're going to be joined by our guy, Brian Baldinger, first. And before we talk to Baldy, I want to give a shout out to our friends over at Empire Today, where there's home floor advantage or home court advantage. You want to make sure that you've got home floor advantage, and our friends over at Empire Today are going to make sure that you have the best floors possible. And Empire Today, we've all been to those big box stores where you wander endless aisles and you have no idea what's going on, and you need help and no one's there. That is not going to be the case when you check out Empire Today. They are there for you, and you're overwhelmed at the big box stores. That is not going to be the case at Empire Today. And why is Empire Today your best bet for a new floor? Because they live and breathe flooring. It's all they do. It's a whole new ballgame when you talk to Empire Today. And they're going to give you $350 off to our listeners by using the code DNVR over at Empire Today /DNVR. So make sure to schedule a free in-home estimate today, because some things are just better at home. Use that code DNVR to get $350 discount over at empiretoday.com /DNVR.
And if you get some new floors, maybe try them out with a new Toyota. See if you really need to have a lot of space to check it out, but who knows? I bet those things could work on a wood floor.
Well, like Empire could go do the flooring at like a Toyota dealership.
They
and you can just drive the Toyotas on.
That's
there.
true.
Wow.
If you were driving a car, what like interior flooring would be best? Like would the wood floors be too slippery? Probably not. Not for Toyota.
No.
The carpet. I bet any Toyota could drive on any floor.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I think that's where we're gonna settle. Toyotas are awesome. If you're driving them outside, maybe you're an off-roader looking for some trails. They've got a bunch of Toyota trucks. They've got the Tacoma, the Land Cruiser. They also have 17 models with available all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive, like the Epic 4Runner. They have more low and zero emission vehicles combined than any other automaker, which we learned from RK yesterday. And there are 16 different hybrid vehicles to choose from, like the Tundra iForce Max hybrid truck. Visit your Front Range Toyota stores at a location near you. Auto Nation Toyota, Arapahoe and Centennial, Corwin Toyota and Boulder, Groove Toyota and Littleton, Mountain States Toyota in Denver, Stevenson Toyota East, Aurora, Stevenson Toyota West and Lakewood. Toyota, official automotive partner of the NFL, official vehicle of DMVR. Let's go places.
All right. I am thrilled to welcome Brian Baldinger back to the show. We've got Baldy joining us on a weekly basis again. And Baldy, first off, so great to have you back on. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm good, Zach. I mean, I feel like I just got back from Colorado, and
Yeah.
seeing snow in April is nothing that I'm usually too used to. But a lot of snow, falling in those Rocky Mountains. It was fun. It was a good time.
Yeah, and so Baldy, you were at Colorado's Pro Day this past Friday, and I just kind of want to get your feeling on that Pro Day because the Broncos, we were just talking about it, had a huge representation there. Sean Payton, George Payton, so many coaches, including our guy Todd Davis. But on top of that, I just want to, where is Travis Hunter going to play in the NFL in terms of what side of the ball? Where is Shedeur Sanders going to be drafted? And then some of these other guys, I mean, there's like 10 other guys that could potentially be in the NFL from this Colorado Pro Day.
Well, you couldn't help but notice the contingency led by Sean. Sean was, just really, he looked like he was relaxed. He was enjoying himself. People were coming up to him. You couldn't help but notice the head coaches, Stefanski, Brian Dable, the guys that were there in attendance. So, if I was Sean Payton, I'd bring my staff. You're 45 minutes away in Boulder. They haven't had a pro day like this in, forever. So go down there and watch Shedeur throw. Go watch Travis Hunter just do anything because the guy's unreal. And where's Travis Hunter going to play? Wherever he wants to play. The guy's already one of the best athletes in the NFL. Like that guy is, I haven't seen many people that are that indefatigable, can just run all day long, never get tired, and then produce like he's produced. Like he's going to be fun to watch. But I think he's going to play both ways in this league. I talked to Champ Bailey that was there, and Champ had that opportunity coming out of college, did a little bit in the NFL, but Champ felt the same way about him. I think he's your starting, whatever he wants to do, starting wide receiver, starting corner, some combination. We're going to see him on both, and maybe in the return game as well. You're going to see that guy make an impact.
Do you just throw him in on both sides right away, or is it somewhere? To me, I would almost think of it as like by year 3, that's when I'd want him like full-time, both sides, and maybe like start him on one side, ease him in for a bit. But what would your plan be?
I think he wants to be a starting wide receiver. That's just what I think. But he didn't say that to me, so I don't want to put words in his mouth. We did, talk about a lot of different things, but I feel like he could be your starting corner. Just because he's got such great ball skills, I feel like he could be your starting corner, and then you could work him in to whatever package you want. You want a 2-minute drill, you want, you want a red zone, threat. There's just so many different ways you could put the ball in his hands. You could have a quick game package for him in just a screen game and things like that. I think there's things you could put into your point, like literally week 1, where he could be just the athlete that he is. And then as you start to grow the offense and you start to find, is he a slot receiver? Is he better outside? Formations that he works best out of, coverages that he beats, you name it. I think you could grow that package, but maybe just start him on the defensive side of the ball right now. In whatever it is, whatever style of defense, you want to run, I think he can play any style.
We kind of opened up this show talking about the Pro Day and maybe the more realistic targets for the Broncos. And the three of us kind of agreed that it's those 3 receivers after Travis that could make the most sense for this team. Curious your thoughts on those guys, Will Shepard, LaJohntay Wester, and Jimmy Horn.
Well, I think Jimmy Horn, if he ran a 4.4 on Friday, I was talking to Pat Shermer, who was the offense coordinator of Colorado, and I was like, well, this sure looks like a Chip Kelly offense to me. And he goes, that's where we got the offense from. We got it from Chip, Chip, he's got his inside receivers, Wester and Horn. And so I think those guys are natural slot receivers, the outside guys, so they can play fast. I mean, they only had 5 legitimate players. They had 4 receivers and a quarterback. I mean, so they put in, basically Chip's offense because they didn't run it very well. They didn't have a very good offense line. And so all that kind of stuff, running backs. So they just made the offense and fit the offense to the personnel they had. But I think both inside receivers, they both have return skills. In fact, they went outside and were catching balls for a lot of the scouts in the punt game when everybody else was kind of doing when Shador was throwing and whatnot. So I think they got a look at. But I think that both of them can play in the slot, and I think they both could help out in the return game right now.
Baldy, I want to take a big picture look at this Broncos team. Entering the offseason, they had 4 major holes: safety, inside linebacker, tight end, and running back. Well, they went out and got 3 big-time players to fill 3 of those holes, and running back now is the only one that just remains as a big hole. Is it just too obvious that running back is going to be their first-round pick, or is that just the one that makes so much sense, and you have to weigh running back as a heavy favorite to be their first-round pick?
Well, Javonte's gone, obviously. So there's Jaleel, and Audric. It's a need. It's certainly a need. They tried that rotation last year and who could get hot. And, I mean, every week was almost somebody different. This is a good draft for running backs, though. I don't know that you have to spend your 20th pick on a running back, but there's plenty. I mean, I don't care if it's Scatabo right now or Ollie Gordon at Oklahoma State. I mean, whatever style of back you want. RJ Harvey at UCF. I mean, there's so many good backs in this draft, not to mention Ashton Jenney. They don't have a chance to get Ashton. But, I don't know where Omarion Hampton falls, where he goes. He looks like a first-round pick to me. But, the 2 Ohio State running backs could certainly be there at 51, possibility. I feel like that's – because this draft is so deep in defensive line, I'm not saying that's a priority, but who doesn't want to keep stocking defensive line in this, in any team right now? I could see them going in the trenches with the 20th pick and running back with the 51st pick. And I think there's going to be a good running back there. Now, they could reverse that, and I don't know, like how they look at Hampton. Like, I think he might be gone by 21, but he's a great big back that's got skills. Ironically, he's from North Carolina. And that's what they thought they were getting with Javonte before the knee injury.
Yeah. I'm curious how you see kind of the top of this running back group shaking out. Because Genty is probably a pretty clear number 1. I guess starting there, do you think that he's worth trading up for if you're the Broncos? Or because of the depth in the class, do you just wait? And then who's kind of next up? Is it just Hampton and then the drop-off?
Well, I guess you got to go, okay, so the Raiders are picking at 6. Do they take Genty at 6? The Bears are picking at 10. Do they take Genty at 10? Or does, because there's so much depth at running back in this class, does Genty drop a little bit? And then the Broncos sitting there at 20 going, man, if he gets to 14, somehow, like, do we package picks or players or whatever and go get this stud? I can't see that scenario because he's just too good. He's just muscles on top of muscles, and he's just a fun guy to study. But that's kind of how I look at it, is the Broncos probably have a trading point where they're going, okay, let's, if he falls past this point, we're going to start making some phone calls. I would think there's a trigger point for them in this draft, up in Green Bay on the 24th here, 16 days from now, where they could get real active if something like that happens.
Mm-hmm.
Baldy, there's been a lot of talk with T-Mac potentially going to the Broncos at 20, and I think the 3 of us have different views on the Broncos' need at receiver. I don't think Sean feels like he needs to go early in the draft for a receiver, but a lot of people rightfully think that, man, they haven't done anything at receiver this offseason, so it means that they might make a big move early in the draft there. Could you see the Broncos using a first-round pick on a receiver? And if so, I mean, does T-Mac make sense, or would it be maybe Matthew Golden or some other spot?
Now, they're totally different players. Golden is just a blazer, but he's also a good route runner, and he had 1 great year of production at Texas. But, we've seen the receivers coming out of Texas over the last 2 years. So, but T-Mac, he hasn't run. I don't know he's got a private session coming up, because he doesn't look like he's a Blazer, and he doesn't look like he's got great change of speeds. He just looks like a big receiver, that looks pretty acrobatic with the ball in the air. And he's got, he's 6'4" and a quarter. He's 219 pounds. He's got tremendous size. But, Cortland Sutton kind of fills that sort of, that size type guy as well. Do they need two guys that are sort of similar like that? We saw Troy Franklin and, Ville and Mims all kind of find their roles last year as the season progressed. Unless they think T-Mac is really special, like he's just this jump ball phenomenon, and I just don't know that he runs well enough to really be a difference maker right now. That big of a difference maker to spend your 20th pick. If I'm building a roster, receiver is generally almost the last position I look at, because you get it. Bo Nix improves, all of a sudden Troy Franklin, Marvin Mims, they all start getting their touches. Ville starts getting a bunch of short yard targets. I feel like that's the job of the quarterback, is to just find the open receiver, and you don't have to be incredibly special at that position.
Baldy, how close do you think the Broncos are to being able to compete for the division, and then maybe even to make noise in the playoffs? And what do you think that they need to do to get closer to that?
Well, the playoff loss was disappointing. You can finish 10-7 and beat the Chiefs in a meaningless game and get to 10 wins, get in the playoffs. But that was you sort of measure your team by how you perform in the playoffs. And to see what Buffalo did to them in that game, you go, we don't have enough firepower in offense to compete with Buffalo or Kansas City in a playoff or Baltimore in a playoff game. We've got to get more explosive. We got to get better in the run game. There's some things. So, I think defensively that was not a good performance either. But we know defensively they're pretty good. And if these guys come back healthy, and with Hufanga and Greenlaw, they're really good players. So you hope that they're fully healthy and ready to roll. And I'd say the defense can be in good shape. But offensively, if you're saying, okay, how do you compete with Kansas City? You got to score. You got to score. Now, Bo Nix is a rookie. He started 18 games. We saw development, but we got to see a year or two jump from Bo Nix in his offense, I think, for them to really compete right now.
Baldy, final one for you right here. You talk about that explosiveness on offense, and when I look at Travion Henderson, I dream about Alvin Kamara, and I feel like I want to see that comparison. Is that too much of a stretch? And then, of course, obviously Kamara, not just with how good of a player he is, but that fit in Sean Payton's offense. I can really see that being a fit here in Denver. Am I too far off on that, or is there a connection there?
Well, no, look, Sean, he knows what running backs look like. The thing that separated Kamara was just the versatility, how well he caught the ball. Now, Travion might be able to do that as well. Not many backs can catch the ball as well as Alvin Kamara. He runs routes like wide receivers. He catches the ball like a wide receiver. But his balance is crazy. It always has been. Now he's been banged up and had some injuries. He's slowing down a little bit. But, he was a third-round pick out of Tennessee. He might have had 1 year of production at Tennessee. Yeah. But Sean saw it, and nobody else saw it. In that class of 2017, they had just finished 7-9 3 years in a row. And they got Ramczyk, Lattimore, and they got Kamara, and they went and won the division 4 years in a row or something like that. Like, Kamara was a big part of the turnaround. I don't want to compare anybody to Kamara just because of how rare he is.
Yeah.
But both those backs at Ohio State are really good players.
Yeah, I love that, and I love having you back on, Baldy. Thanks for joining us today, and we look forward to touching base with you every single week moving forward. Thanks, Baldy.
Yeah, thanks, Zach. Talk to you.
Man, awesome to have our guy Brian Baldinger on, and I thought Henry had the best question on the top of his head because his eyes perked up a minute before Baldy's interview was over. And it wasn't because he had fantastic questions, because the Nuggets just made some big news. Huge news. You're shaking your head, Ryan.
What is happening?
Calvin Booth trying to save himself. He knows what he did, so he fired Michael Malone to get him out.
4 games left?
Three.
The shakeup makes sense. They suck right now.
This is actually crazy timing, though.
It is crazy.
Way too late.
it's way too late, and I think Henry's spot on too. I think this is just the beginning of a lot of shakeups to come for the Nuggets.
Not the person who should have been fired today.
That's very fair.
Yep.
That's very fair. But the Cronkies, crazy enough, in all of the sports teams they own, haven't fired a GM since at least 2000.
Yeah, well, I'll be looking forward to the Nuggets emergency show. That should be happening any minute.
Without a doubt. So keep your eyes on the lookout for that. And before we continue this conversation to talk about some football, I want to give a shout out to our friends over at UC Health, where what we try to do with UC Health is just live healthy right now. And there's so many different ways that you can live healthy. The first thing that I did this morning, wake up and go to the gym. Try to get, 30 minutes of cardio in every single day. And if you want to live healthy, there's so many different ways that you can live healthy over at UC Health. You can find out so many different ways to live healthy by visiting our friends over at uchealth.org to find out different ways to live healthy and be healthy. And make sure that you're living like there is a tomorrow by going over to uchealth.org.
And Monarch Money. Monarch Money, the best. You know, if you just lost your job, I guess his contract is guaranteed. So Michael Malone will have all of his money, which is fine.
Yeah.
The Nuggets, though. The Nuggets could use some money, and because of their bad
They could have used some money
they
management
probably
skills.
Need some better money management skills. Monarch is a great personal finance app. It does all sorts of stuff for you. It's not just a simple budgeting app. It'll help you track so much other stuff. I know a bunch of us have actually signed up for it. I haven't gotten in on it yet, but I know a bunch of people who work here have, and they say it's been great so far. It's a tight time for me personally with Nuggets season tickets, Avs season tickets, Nuggets playoff tickets, and Avs playoff tickets. So I really got to lock in Monarch Money. That is the way to do it. If you guys are interested in signing up for Monarch Money, can you give me a little help, Zach?
What?
My computer's not working.
Oh my goodness. If you need help with your money,
it's staring at you.
make sure to go to monarchmoney.com and use that code DNVR for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Use that code DNVR.
By the way, our own Adamata has just said that could also be Calvin Booth.
Today?
Okay, I would feel better.
Like
I
what
would also
happened
feel
today?
better.
Woo!
Wow.
That is crazy.
I got a text from a girlfriend saying, "Isn't the GM the problem?" Like, wow, that is on the money.
Great observation.
That
Lexi.
is, I love that.
I mean, this is the news of the day in Colorado, and we're all about Colorado. Initial input.
Just trying something like it certainly looked like this season's ship was sinking. So you just try to throw a Hail Mary. The other thing is, we were actually talking about this in the office yesterday, and Harrison was saying that he really likes David Adelman, who will now be the Nuggets interim coach. So it's like you're kind of throwing him into the deepest of deep ends, but trial by fire, prove you can be the guy.
This is Coach Yoke. And if they didn't talk to Nikola Jokic about this, I mean, they did. There's no way you don't do that, right?
I feel like that's been
no way
said
you
a
don't.
lot of times about sports moves, and then it comes out that didn't happen.
And
What's crazy? I mean, Malone was like not a defender of Jokic, but like he never once said. You would think that Jokic would have Malone's back.
I think, yeah. I don't know. I gotta see. I want the dust to settle.
Yeah.
Yes.
You want to know something that's funny, and we'll see if something does happen with Calvin Booth. But I was working on something. Can't give too many details away. But the thing I was working on, I needed to have a take. It could be about anything, but I wanted to just like record a take. And the take I had was that the Nuggets should fire Calvin Booth, and that I did that yesterday.
Oh wow.
So it would be crazy if it actually happened.
Wait,
today.
is it up yet?
No, it's not for public consumption.
Oh, okay.
You just thought about recording a take.
No.
Well, it's for something else.
Oh. Huh,
Wow.
Interesting. Well, yesterday, that conversation in the office, and then we'll move on to Broncos, but that conversation in the office, I said the Broncos, or I said the Nuggets have to either move on from Malone, Booth, MPJ, or Jamal, or some mixture of all of those. And then crazy enough, 24 hours later, I thought Malone was probably at the bottom of that list, but I guess not. So this, in a football sense, is like firing your coach with 3 games left right before heading into the playoffs to me is like firing your head coach of an NFL team at halftime of week 18. Like heading into the playoffs and you're losing at halftime, so you fire your coach. A new coach takes over with 1 half left before going into the playoffs. Boy, it just made the last 3 games and whatever the Nuggets do in the postseason that much more interesting.
Yeah. Again, you better have talked to Nikola. Because if you didn't talk to Nikola, that's how you wind up with a trade request. But again, hopefully you just talk to him and he's cool with it and you can move on.
Yep, exactly. All right, let's go back.
There goes Calvin Booth.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Great move.
Quickly. Whoo.
Who had that? Shams again? Shams?
Yes. And I remember, Shams.
What weird timing.
Wait, I don't see that.
They're both nice guys. It's just...
I don't see Shams saying...
Wait, really? I've got Shams. Full clean out. The Denver Nuggets are also firing with general manager. He probably deleted. There's the second tweet. Firing with general manager. He deleted it.
He deleted it and
Typo. Both nice guys. Like Calvin Booth came up to some Buffs practices because his kid played basketball. I think he plays college basketball now somewhere. Back when I was covering him.
What do you mean somewhere? CSU.
Oh, it's like
he just transferred to CSU.
Okay.
Right back out.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Michael Malone talked to my girlfriend at the airport. Spent some time. Said nicest guy.
Wow.
Malone was a really good coach, I thought. Calvin Booth, terrible GM. But also, I mean, the team is worse now than it was a couple months ago. So that is coaching.
Man, well, crazy. So make sure to stay tuned to DNVR YouTube, where the Nuggets will be going live with an emergency zone very soon. And so if you want Nuggets talk, you can jump over there.
What if they cut Russ? Boom. Move on.
Please.
Anything now is definitely on the table.
Please.
Although Russ has been overwhelmingly good this year.
Yes.
Maybe
But
not
these
right
past
now,
couple weeks
but
have really
overwhelmingly
sucked.
good this year.
No.
Yep.
I just won't stand for overwhelmingly.
Better
Overwhelmingly,
than
the guy's
expected.
making minimum contract right now.
I'm still not overwhelmed.
Better than expected.
I'm overwhelmed.
His best year he's had in a few years.
Yeah.
Sure.
There you go.
Just
Yeah.
disaster class over the last week.
Yeah, and you see why
Yeah.
the playoffs are.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so let's talk about these CU wide receivers because, again, that's where I think the Broncos really had their sights set to. And these guys are all, as Baldy said, speedsters. That they're all very talented. All probably day 3 picks. Am I wrong about that? 4th to 7th round?
Yes, I think there's a chance that someone could fall in love with one of these guys and they could go into the 3rd, but most likely, you said probably.
And it kind of seems like they're all like it's not a clear 1, 2, 3 in terms of how good they are. Is that right? It's kind of take your pick, take your choice.
Kinda, yeah. So, to me, the best receiver of this group is LaJohntay Wester, and if Travis Hunter wasn't there last year, LaJohntay Wester would have had insane numbers. Because you go and watch the tape, and like you can never blame anyone for throwing the ball to Travis Hunter. But on so many of those throws, LaJohntay Wester is also wide open. He was a machine at getting open and really filled a need that Colorado didn't have the year before, which was like a chain mover on 3rd down who's just going to get open and make the play. He had so many clutch catches where it's like he's going to the ground and scooping it off or like whatever, going away from his body to make the play.
Really quick, did Wester catch the Hail Mary at the end of the Baylor game?
He picked it off the turf.
Yeah.
At the end of
catch.
At the end of that game to win the game, like when you needed him most, he was there. And again, that's something that I think the Broncos are severely lacking.
And he's my guy when it's viewing through a Broncos perspective. And both of you guys know these guys as players way better than I do. But when I think of what the Broncos need, I think LaJohntay, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I think he's a perfect slot receiver for the Broncos, not just because of his size, but he has speed, but his route running is, I think, the sharpest among these guys. And that's what you need in the slot, is a guy that can run really crisp routes and then also has the ability to be a playmaker from the slot. And that's not something that every slot receiver possesses, is to make plays from that slot position. But man, if you can get him on day 3, maybe not with that 4th round pick, maybe with that 4th round pick, but definitely one of your 6th round picks. I'd be okay with any of those 3 in the 6th round, but specifically with Western there, I think he's a guy that could actually contribute this year too, because of that fit that he could have in the slot for the Broncos.
Wester, not Western.
I knew it was Wester.
Okay.
I get my Mike McDaniels, Josh McDaniels wrong. Yeah.
Yes.
Moving on to Jimmy Horn. Jimmy Horn is making me throw away the 40 for good. Because while 4.4 is really fast, Jimmy Horn is in like my top 5 players I've ever seen run on a field. How fast they look, especially when you're close to the field. And I don't know like why there's a disconnect there. It could just be that he's not a great starter, like coming out of the blocks. But when he gets the ball in his hands and he starts moving, the defense like doesn't know what to do. Like you go back and watch the touchdown he had in, I believe, the Cincinnati game, which ended up stupidly getting called back because he chucked up the deuces. The defense like thinks they have him, and then he just breezes past them. There's a little drag route in the UCF game where it looks like he's kind of got nowhere to go, and he just like looks straight. He's like, oh, and he just sprints to the sideline, and no one can catch him when he gets there, and he gets a first down. Like some of that angle deleting speed is special from him, and he runs really like compact, and I think he has pretty good hands for being kind of one of those like long speed smaller guys.
Yeah.
How small is he? Like, is he?
He's small.
Listed 5'9", 160. I'm not sure
so
what the official numbers are.
At least
though.
right now, way too small to be like an every down guy. So he's just a part-time burner, a playmaker.
Yeah, I mean a playmaker for sure. And he returned kicks for the Buffs last year. Was very close to breaking a couple. He returned punts the year before, and then they got Wester. Wester's a better punt returner. So yeah, I mean, true game-changing speed. And then Will Shepherd is an interesting one because he came on really slow for the Buffs last year. He didn't really make any big plays until like week 4 or 5. And then from then on out, he was making a big play every week. I think he went at 1.6 straight weeks with a touchdown catch. It's your classic big receiver. He had a 40-inch vertical at Pro Day, 40 and a half, I think. Made some really like acrobatic catches in the end zone, and had a long conversation with Sean Payton at Pro Day. To me, like when we're talking about the Sean Payton prototype, Will Shepherd fits it very well. And I think, you know, on top of his tape at Colorado, had some really good tape in the SEC, basically just being Vanderbilt's only option.
Yep. No, he's my favorite of the, well, I guess not including Travis Hunter. He's my favorite of the Buffs receivers. Like, he's just a monster. Like, he goes up and gets the ball. Like, those are things that translates. 6'3", 190. Like, he's that tall, narrow type. Honestly, looks bigger than that when he plays. But I think that he could be a really, really good fit.
And it seemed like he was the guy that won the pro day outside of the big two shooter and Travis. It seemed like he was the one.
4.52.
Yeah, and he was the one getting all the pub.
Yeah.
And then also, nice long talk with Sean Payton.
Yeah, definitely. I think all of these guys are going to make a team happy that they go to. If I had to bet on one, though, it would be Wester.
Yep,
Okay.
yep, and that's where I'm going to, especially with the fit for the Broncos. Really quick, just a note for anyone tuning in for some Nuggets news. The Nuggets are going to be live right after our show, so stay tuned. Hang with us for the next 16 minutes until Nuggets starts.
I think this is like, that's not just like a company line. They're waiting for all of the guys to get here.
Yes.
It's not they're just like waiting for our show to end.
we
We
have
had to
one.
end the show. We'd end the
Yes.
show.
Eric only hits right now. We have
Yes.
3 more fellas.
Yep. Yeah, that Tuesday mid-morning news break right there. Let's continue this conversation and continue our 15 for 15, talking about a guy that Brian Baldinger said on our show a couple of months ago. Reminding him of Rob Gronkowski, a faster Rob Gronkowski, and that's Tyler Warren. And I think when we started getting into the draft stuff at the end of last season and right when the season ended, Tyler Warren was at least my dream pick. And I think he was kind of the consensus dream pick for the Broncos. Well, now the Broncos have signed Evan Engram, and Tyler Warren's stock has only continued to rise to the fact that I put him in the same conversation as Ashton Genty. No chance he's there for the Broncos at 20. Do you guys disagree?
No.
Yeah.
I don't know if I think that should be true, but I think it will be true.
Oh,
That's
so you're
where I'm
not-
at.
You guys
Yep.
aren't as high on Tyler Warren then.
No, I
Okay.
mean, he's overrated at this. Like back in November when he's torching USC, and you're like, oh my goodness, this guy's crazy. That's when he was underrated. And then you go through the whole CFP thing. It's like, yeah, I'm not sure that this is a guy who, like, maybe he should be a top 10 pick, but the whole like top 10 lock, there's no way that shouldn't be the case. But that is the world we live in.
Wait, how did the CFP bring his value down? Because
It didn't. It brought his value way up. Before he was like, yo, you could probably snag him in the 3rd, 4th round. And then after that, it was, you've got to get him in the top 10.
Wow, yeah. I mean, I think he's, for this whole year, I really think he's been like a first-round guy, but now I do think he's a top 10 guy. I think the furthest he falls is 14 to the Colts, but it really seems like the Jets at 7 would go for him. I saw the Bears, Mel Kiper's latest mock draft. He has the Bears going with him, which I don't really understand. I guess that's a Gronk-Aaron Hernandez combo there because they've got our guy Cole Kmet, who is one of the best young tight ends in the NFL. So that one surprised me, but I've seen that a lot. So maybe there's something there. And then, of course, the Colts at 14. In fact, guys, I think we're getting to the point that the top 2 tight ends aren't going to be available for the Broncos at 20. I think they're both, Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland, are going to be gone before pick 20. Whether it's right or wrong, I think that's the way we're trending.
Good.
Yeah.
So then you're in the mind that after the Broncos got Evan Engram, they don't need another tight end, or at least one in the first round.
Not in the first round. And again, go back to the running backs. This isn't quite as deep of a tight end class as it is a running back class, but I think there's a lot of intriguing tight end prospects that you can get in the 2nd round and beyond. So I'm just not a fan of tight end in the first round, period. With the few exceptions. Obviously, it's not like it's never worked. Brock Bowers has everyone really excited about doing it, and then they'll just be like another Noah Fant this year, and then everyone will be back to saying don't do it. Yeah. But to me, it's just, especially when it's not as a whole like it was when everyone first started talking about tight end to the Broncos in the first round, it's not a move that I would want to make.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, if he's there at 20, I would like it. That'd be a great pick. But I have no interest in moving up to go get him. And it seems like at this point he's off the board because you don't need another tight end. Like the way that room is set up now, it makes sense. Like you've got Evan Engram to be your receiving threat. You've got Troutman, Kroll, Adkins in some combination to help you out with all the blocking and that sort of stuff. That's enough. That's a above average tight end room in the NFL and probably a pretty good one. So I don't think you need another, but again, like you don't need a lot of things. You're going to draft something. You don't need a defensive lineman, but if there's one there, it's a game changer. It helps you in the future. I'm not against drafting a tight end, and he's an awesome tight end, but it's just not a situation where I think you need to give up assets to go get him.
I do agree with you on that. Trading up doesn't make sense now, especially to give up what you'd have to give. What we talked about to get Ashton Genty. Realistically, you probably have to trade a future first to get into the thick of the top 10. That's probably what you have to do to get Tyler Warren now. You're not doing that. That's crazy. But I do disagree that the Broncos do still have a need at tight end. Evan Ingram's under contract for 2 years. The way his contract is, he's probably going to be here for both of those years. The depth you said, I don't like with Troutman, Kroll, Adkins. I like that for competing for the 3rd and 4th tight end spot. I still think you could use a tight end too, but I do think the way this draft plays out, it's probably in the 2nd or 3rd round you get one of those guys there. Or if Tyler Warren or Colston Loveland fall to 20, you can get them there. But I do agree with you guys. After getting Engram, the Broncos could have traded up for a tight end. Once you got Engram, that's off the board. I do still think tight end in the 1st round is in play, but it have to be a 20, and it have to be one of those guys.
Okay. Hopefully that doesn't happen.
Yeah. Again,
I mean,
bigger needs.
Think about
Much bigger needs.
Yeah.
outside of running back.
So running back is your biggest need.
Wide receiver.
Defensive line would be in front of that just because of the contract situation. Wide receiver. Center, honestly. If you're talking a first rounder, that's a guy who'd actually start if you draft one. I think there's a list. I think you can even go linebacker too. Again, with Alex Singleton's contract expiring after this year, Greenlaw's injury history, I think tight end is on the same tier with a bunch of other spots.
Man, I just think the luxury, and if any coach would know how to use 2 tight ends to just be a nightmare matchup or matchup nightmare,
Yeah, but you said
it
the
would
word.
be Sean.
You said the word right there. Luxury. It would be a
Yeah,
luxury.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's fair. But that tight end too is a need.
I disagree. I think Adam Troutman is one of the better tight end 2s in the league. I think that if you were just to go across the board 1 through 32, I think he would rank pretty highly.
Yeah, I don't agree.
Because I don't think there are a lot of game-changing second tight ends in the NFL.
There's not.
And Troutman certainly isn't that.
No.
And he's nowhere
No,
close
but
to
he's
that.
good,
You just need a
solid,
guy,
trustworthy.
who
He's
just
good.
Does his job at tight end too.
And how dangerous would it be to have someone that's more than that?
For sure.
It'd be fun. It'd be a luxury though.
Yeah. I think having a top pick as an inside linebacker would be a luxury. I think everything outside of running back is a luxury for the Broncos right now, including receiver. That's how I view it. And I know you guys feel different about the receiver spot.
Yeah, the receiver is damn near need 1 for me.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, you need players that the other team has to game plan for.
You don't think Cortland Sutton's that? Or do you think Cortland Sutton's that?
Cortland Sutton is like half of that.
What about Marvin Mims? And that's where we disagree. I do think Marvin Mims is becoming that guy.
He certainly had a flash, and I'm a Marvin Mims believer, but I like I said, I need a guy who on third down is open, and I know that, and I can count on that. And the only way that he's not open is if the defense specifically decided we're not going to let him be open, so then someone else is open.
And I think that guy's Evan Engram. And I know he's not a wide receiver,
be,
but I do
could be.
think Sean is going to use him as a receiver in terms of that mismatch.
And that would help a lot.
Speaking of Evan Engram, stay tuned to our show and DNVR later this week, where we have some big exciting news on that front as well.
Real quick, just a reminder that the Nuggets guys are on their way to the studio. They'll be live as soon as they possibly can.
Yep.
If they walk in right now, we'll end the show.
Well, if they're going to walk in right now and end the show, let's make sure that we hit a super chat really quick. Hit us with a thumbs up. It helps us out. We really appreciate everyone tuning in to Broncos Talk on a big Nuggets day. And we got a super chat coming in from our friend Dusty, who says, bought my flight and draft event tickets today, my first DNVR event, and I'm stoked to meet some of y'all. RK better be there to do a Malort shot.
Hell yeah.
Cheers.
Let's go.
Another
I'm in.
selling point.
I have breaking news,
Oh, wow.
and it's not about the Nuggets this time.
Good.
I will be there.
Let's go.
will be
Let's
there.
go.
I will actually be on both shows.
Wow. Doing the drive, doing the Dove Valley to, I guess Denver to Boulder commute.
No. I'll be here doing the Buff show,
Okay.
and as soon as that'll be the first half of the first round.
Yeah.
As soon as that part of it is kind of wrapped up, then boom, I jet over to Stoney's to be on the show with you guys for when the Broncos make their
For the
pick.
20th pick. I love it.
The only thing that
Yes.
can really throw a wrench in the gears is if they were to trade up to like 10 for Genty, but then you guys will have time to talk about it, and I'll
We'll
come
still
react
have
after.
hours. Yes. We'll still have hours.
And then maybe, who knows, if they have 22 more picks, maybe they make a move up to get back in the later of the first round
Yeah.
too.
Yep.
Well, I love it. So RK is going to be there, and I love that we got people flying in for this. That is awesome.
That's going to be awesome. It's going to be a great night, and if you fly in from anywhere to come to this, I will do a Malort shot with you. That's my promise.
Wow.
Well, you like Malort.
I do.
That is ridiculous.
So are you really conceding anything there?
Well, it's just like a celebration
Yeah.
of your travels.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So really looking forward to that. If you want to get tickets, click the link in our description to go to thednvr.com/events to get tickets as well. You had a little
The-
smirk, Henry.
Kroenke released statements on the firings. They're two separate statements. Michael Malone's 4 paragraphs. Calvin Booth's 1 paragraph. Michael Malone starts with, "It is with no pleasure that we announce that blah, 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 blah," and kind of goes through all that stuff. Not a similar sentiment with Calvin Booth. I want to thank Calvin. We'll give him that. I think there was pleasure.
It really says with no pleasure.
It is with no pleasure to start Michael Malone's. But with Booth, not as sentimental.
We
It
do
is
it with
value
the
him.
intention of giving our group the best chance of competing for the 2025 NBA championship and delivering another title to Denver.
So it's for
I
this
do.
year.
I kind of agree with that. Shake things up. Like, you weren't going to win it doing what you did. Shake things up.
We've
but
seen
long term,
the-
I think it might be a big mistake.
We've seen like the new coach boost happen
Totally.
all over sports. I even remember the Rockies getting a new coach boost one time.
Wow.
They
That's
haven't had a new
throwback.
coach in a while, manager, I guess.
Yeah. Maybe
but
that's what they're missing.
we always talk about like I love betting on a football team the game after they just fired their coach.
Yep.
Yep.
And for the Nuggets, like maybe they just get that fresh boost, maybe a shake up in the rotation, like whatever it may be. You can't come in and just do the same thing. So something's going to change for the Nuggets. Maybe it sticks.
Short term, I think all of a sudden you have a chance. Again, you throw randomness in a situation where things seem to be over. Long term, moving on from a good coach is maybe not the best idea, but we'll see.
The issue is you talk about the short-term boost. In the NFL, at least, that short-term boost is 1 week. You get one game. Jeff Saturday was on ESPN, and then the next week he's coaching the Indianapolis Colts as their interim head coach, a guy that had no coaching experience. He comes in, wins that first game. It's like, oh my gosh, maybe Jim Irsay is right when everyone else is wrong. No, everyone else was right. Jim Irsay then goes and loses. So I don't mean to be doom and gloom, but like I could see this bringing a really good short-term burst in terms of this next 3 games heading into the playoffs and maybe a little bit in the playoffs, but it does, as Henry's saying, make you question the long term.
Yeah. They do this in soccer where it's just like
Yeah.
things are going bad. We have to fire the coach.
And they own Arsenal
The year that Leeds sadly got relegated,
and the Rapids.
they had 3 different coaches in that season.
Wow.
Oof.
That's wild. Doesn't Leeds play today? Is it
They do.
tomorrow?
1 o'clock.
Wow, 1 o'clock. What a big day for you.
Yeah.
Well, maybe they'll get a new coach.
No,
Michael
their
Malone's
coach is
free.
good. Their coach is good.
Oh, okay.
So I know people on Twitter are responding in a way of like, put this in Broncos news. This is the Broncos. What are they? This is 7 years in to Bo Nix's tenure with the team-ish, something like that. Bo Nix is best quarterback in the NFL. And the Broncos, midway through the season, were the number 2 seed in the AFC. And with a week left, they've dropped to the
5 or 6.
5 or 6 seed, and they could go all the way down to 6 or 7. They could bounce up to 3 with 1 week left. And they fire Sean Payton and George Payton 1 week before. Is that kind of what it's like?
It's exactly what it's like.
Yeah.
We would take that situation, wouldn't we? Because it would mean
yeah.
that Bo Nix is the best quarterback in the NFL.
no, it all
You
worked.
take that
Like
all
by
day long.
far,
Michael
he's won
Malone's a
3
legend.
MVPs. Should have honestly been 5,
Yeah.
including this year.
Yep.
I feel like I need to honor Michael Malone. I don't know how.
You
I'm
can
not
take
getting
your
like
hat
a
off. You
tattoo.
have a
likes-
nugget. You have a Nuggets hat. You
he
could
likes
like take it
wine.
off the final.
No, but
minute
it's
of the
not. It's
show.
not anti-Nuggets. It's just I need a pro Michael Malone. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like maybe
that's true.
I think I might go buy myself a Michael Malone bobblehead, and I'm just gonna keep it on my desk in memory of what he did.
Real quick.
That's
Now,
enough.
current Denver sports coaching rankings. Bednar number
Sean
1.
moves up a spot. Yeah, Bednar 1, Sean 2.
Sean 2.
I mean, that's
Bud
not.
Black.
Yeah, that,
I think Bud
this
Black-
isn't much of a.
Bud Black. Bud
Well, yeah, I
Black
mean,
versus Adelman
We're
is
including
interesting.
college. Coach Prime is up there. But let
Are we doing just their time in Colorado?
yeah.
Yeah.
Like just how good
Totally.
they are right now.
Yeah, what are they? Yeah, I think the tough one to me is Bud Black and David Adelman. Because, like, Bud Black, you might be a
Do
Do you know how
negative.
many games David Adelman would have
So
to lose?
tough.
See, and that's the thing is Adelman's done nothing.
I think Sean
Right.
has a conversation for one.
Adelman being the new Nuggets coach, for those who aren't here.
Yeah,
I- No, he
that's
doesn't.
important
the
piece of
interim, right?
Yes, interim head coach.
Oh,
You're gonna have
man.
to bring a championship to the city before I can.
That's
say
fair,
that.
and that's why I was asking:
Yeah.
is it in their time in Colorado? Is their time overall? But
Just right
I
now,
mean, that's
who
fair.
do you got?
I mean,
Power
Sean's
rankings. He's good, yes.
Damn good, though.
Bednar's just...
I think there's competition there. Well, that's going to do it
Okay.
today. Make sure to stay tuned for the Nugget Show coming to you live in just a couple of minutes. We will see you tomorrow on the DMVR Broncos podcast at 11 a.m.
We all silly like the mayor.